Welcome back, friends, to another edition of the Mighty Shadow Fight Podcast. Today, I'm joined by the host of the Wellness Dojo Podcast, Mr. Craik. Kyle, thanks for coming in, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm honored to be here.
Listen, it's been, for those who don't know, so this is, I've been aware of your podcast for a few years now. Matter of fact, shout out to your old co-host, Riley.
Yeah.
He was an older Rochelle student. And so I've been aware for a long time. And we both did a podcast with TJ Sheehan from Gloves Not Guns. And you're a little bit faster than me. That was
that time.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That was a few podcasts, or it was a while ago, maybe a month ago now. And I've just been taking forever trying to get on YouTube. And funny enough, we both put it out on the same day. And so I messaged you like, sorry, man, not trying to step on any toes or nothing. But anyway, and then funny enough, it was like, well, what the hell are we doing? Just chatting on Instagram. Let's get together.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's awesome. Now a little bit of our history, and please, I was thinking of this. Excuse any martial arts ignorance I have and just correct me where need be. So I remember back in the day, so coming from like a open tournament, point fighting forms, all that good stuff. I came from the hard karate style, hard katas and the point fighting and stuff. And you were more soft style kung fu, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so now, I'm not sure if you recall, I competed against you twice. There was you and who was your other super tall, long-legged friend? Dylan?
Dylan, yeah.
That's right. And I remember seeing you guys, so I'm 42. I'm not sure how old you are.
I'm 34 now.
Okay, exactly. So I remember seeing you young fellers and being like, oh, look at these cute kids. And then you guys got enormous. And I remember, I'm like, I can't compete with you guys. Like, for those who don't know, point fighting it's whoever scores the first clean point, they stop, they break, everybody agrees. And it's really fun. It's I don't want to call it tag, but it's the easiest way to explain it.
That's how I always explain it. It's like tag with your hands and feet.
And you're both it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's really fun. Anyway, and I remember like, man, I couldn't even get inside your legs. And I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. And then the second time I competed against you, Israel something. I can't remember his name. And I blew everything in that round, and then I had to spar you next, and I was like, oh, dude. And I remember just like about 30 seconds into the match, I'm like, man, I give up. I think I got worked 5 points. But
yeah, it's interesting, man, because you described Dylan, and so I had two students. Well, they were my instructor students, but so I got my black belt, and then I had these other two young guys who were younger than me. So Dylan's 30, so 4 years younger than me, and I remember just being like, man, I don't have like anybody to train with anymore, because the other black belts that were in the club had kind of gone off and done their own thing.
Sure.
And so I was like, yeah, I got to get these guys good. Like, that's my goal now. I got to get these guys good, bring them up so that they can kind of push me and compete with me. And then same thing, I get into competition with them, they're black belts, and I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, you guys got too good.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, now I can't get past your legs. I can't beat you guys.
Back off. No kidding. And now we were just talking about this. You're looking at getting back. So it's been a while, you were saying, from injury and stuff, but looking at getting back into competition, yeah? Yeah,
man. Yeah, I had an unfortunate concussion that came through. I just fell awkwardly, hit my head on the mat really hard. So that messed me up for a little while. And then just like injuries have kind of stemmed after that. And so, yeah, it's been really tough. And, but my body's starting to feel good again. And just life, the stars are starting to align again, where I'm kind of getting my life back in order. And
nice.
Yeah, I'm excited I got that itch.
Good. Yeah. I don't know if it ever goes away, to be honest. But
I imagine it probably won't.
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned concussion or pretty bad concussion. What are some symptoms? Like what were some symptoms and long-going symptoms of that? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So, I mean, immediately when I hit my head, it was like the room was spinning. It was like they described seeing stars. Yeah. And I felt that.
Yeah.
Like I was like, where the hell am I right now? I got up, finished the fight, and
this was in your gym?
No, this was actually at a tournament.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was at like provincials.
Okay.
So the way that it happened, I caught like a spinning kick with both arms.
Okay.
And so if you can imagine, I've got both arms, and then I go swinging down to the ground. So my head just hit. And so for like 2 weeks probably, like I couldn't even look at my computer.
Is that right?
Like just pounding headaches. Luckily, actually, Riley Anderson, he's a naturopath, right, as well. And so he was like helping me with all these different remedies and stuff for concussions, and this will help you pass the blood-brain barrier and all that kind of stuff. So he really helped me out. But it was,
cool.
it was a few weeks at least where it was just like really bad headaches. And then just, I felt fuzzy for like months afterwards.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And yeah, I'd be slowly starting to do things in class, like training with the students, and it'd be like a punch to the shoulder. And all of a sudden it's like a week again where I'm fuzzy. And so I was like, yeah, I was just like really nervous to get back into anything.
I bet. Man, listen, I've had every injury, but just don't mess with the brain, you know?
Yeah, I gained a whole new level of respect for it.
Yeah, I bet. Hey,
because even coaching, I used to be that coach who was on the sideline, like, shake it off, like, let's go, like, get back in there, like, tough it out. Me experiencing that concussion at that level, it really changed the way that I look at it now, even from a coaching perspective. And I think just in general, we're seeing more and more of that now in combat sports, right?
Yeah. And I know I mentioned this ad nauseum, but I'm just coming off 7 months surgery. I had a massive knee surgery.
Oh wow!
And I over there, right in that corner, I stepped right.
Yeah,
that's all I did. And of course, it was, I'm sure, the straw that broke the camel's back. But everything, ACL, just everything, meniscus, tore it all apart. And so before that, if you were coming back from a knee injury, or you had one, or you had knee surgery, and you're like, well, you know, I'm just worried. I'm like, will you shut the hell up about your knee and just kick the pad? Now I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it changes you, right? Yeah, it's like anything in life, right? When you go through those struggles, it gives you new perspective on things.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. What do you do for work?
So for work, I teach martial arts.
Nice.
And then, so my company is the Wellness Dojo.
Yes.
So what I've kind of done is I was doing personal training, massage therapy, nutrition coaching, all these things as a part of my business for many, many years. And through actually the pandemic, I decided, as I was looking through like my personal brand, my business brand, and those types of things, just really looking at the fact that everything I did, I always related back to martial arts. And I had kind of been running two separate businesses for a long time. I was running this wellness business with the fitness and nutrition and massage therapy and naturopathic medicine. And I was running this martial arts club as like a part-time kind of fun hobby thing. Sure. And I just started to realize how aligned those two things were. And everything that I did in the wellness realm, I related back to martial arts.
Sure. And it's supposed to be that way.
It is. And so now those two things are combined, and now that's my business now. And so, just running it and doing the podcast as well, and speaking engagements, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah. How did you
become interested in that kind of naturopathic sort of road?
Yeah, I've always been interested just in kind of holistic wellness as a thing. And then funny enough,
but how do you, I'm playing He-Man, I'm playing Sonic. Guys, I'm going to go pick that plant. Do you see that over? That's eucalyptus. How do you find that?
Yeah, and see, like, I've never been like that passionate in it to like want to necessarily go and become a naturopathic doctor or anything like that. Okay. But I've always been fascinated with the fact that there are alternative options out there.
Sure.
I've always been the type, like, I don't like taking even an Advil if I don't have to.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
So finding like those alternative methods has always been fascinating to me. And then I was just very fortunate that through martial arts, like we've mentioned Riley a couple times, but like Riley is somebody who, growing up in our club, which was my Zhang Horn at the time, like I looked up to him. He was one of the first black belts that I got to kind of train under. And
wait. Yeah. Was Riley on the tournament scene?
Yeah, he definitely
was.
How
am I that stupid?
I don't think it's stupid. I think it's just like...
How do I know everybody else but Riley?
I know it's...
because I only know him from our gym.
Yeah. I know. So like when he left for a while because he got hurt. I see. And then when he came back, like he decided he wanted to try... Once he got his black belt in Kung Fu, he decided he wanted to go... I'm talking for Riley now.
Please do.
But from my knowledge, he decided that he wanted to go and just try other martial arts, right? And so he went into kickboxing, Muay Thai, and that's when he came with you guys. We didn't offer any of that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And I think it's good to go and get all those different experiences and stuff. But it's funny how our world's, that martial arts community, whether it's MMA, whether it's point fighting, karate style, I just find it's so cool how connected everything is and everyone is.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think a lot of that has to do with like I call my fighters my dysfunctional family. Like I see you cry, I see you sweat, I see you bleed, I see you happy, I see you explode, I know when you're depressed, I know when things like I don't know anybody else like you freaks. And I meant to say freaks.
Yeah.
But so I think when you have that in your own gym, and then it's a little further, you go to open point fighting, and then you start to know people, you see people improve, you see people who started off as awful black belts, and they all of a sudden they didn't, like, and I think a lot of it just comes down to there's something about being punched in the face while everyone's watching, right? We all know that feeling. We've all been the bug, we've all been the windshield. So there's a lot of, like, I don't want to say loss of ego. There's a ton of ego in martial arts, but camaraderie, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because even when you think of point fighting or kickboxing or jiu-jitsu, anything like that, besides those people in the room, it's hard to explain to anyone else, why do you do this? But everybody else in that room understands. You know, you don't have to explain it to them. So I see what you mean by that. Yeah.
It's definitely a feeling.
Yeah, a feeling. Good call.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and we were talking about martial arts. And I said, it's difficult sometimes because times have changed quite a bit. And I don't know if you feel like you've experienced this, but I've definitely noticed that I have to teach differently now than what I maybe would have had to have done, 10 years ago. Even.
Sure.
If a kid gets hit in the face now in class, sometimes that's a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't like this. I'm not bringing my kid back, or whatever the case might be.
Right. And then I have to pretend like it's a problem. Like, really, it's just part of it. But,
Yeah, and it's like, well, like that's how you learn not to get hit in the face. Kind of is how I've always approached it growing up. But you kind of do have to approach it a little bit differently. But the reason I bring that up is because through this conversation, I explained how, while you are learning to fight in martial arts, what you're actually learning more is like kind of how to avoid it.
Sure.
Like you got to get hit in the face to learn how to not get hit in the face.
Yeah, that sucked.
And that sucks, right? But through that experience and through those experiences, I think in martial arts, we develop this intuitive nature, right? Where I've noticed it in myself, where I can kind of sense a bad vibe off of somebody.
Yes.
And I really do think that comes from learning through martial arts how to just learning like to judge people's emotions in a fight.
Sure, body language, and then also just like learning to control my own emotions in those situations. Because like you said, it's like the famous Mike Tyson quote. It's like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. That's it.
Right? It's like you learn that.
Yep.
That's a learned skill when you take a kick to the face and you're like, I'm going to get you back, man.
Yeah.
You got to tame that so you can fight smart.
Right.
Right. And I think that does teach it for real life too.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, man. So speaking of the Wellness Dojo, now that you're there, how did that whole thing come apart? Actually, I want to go back even farther.
Yeah.
We talked about, you were just saying things have been changing, things are different, and I agree. And because of the rise of like full contact combat sports, and I'll put jiu-jitsu in there as well, and MMA, again, martial arts ignorance, correct me if I'm wrong, but even quite some time ago, I thought the traditional martial arts, even the maybe more eccentric ones, are starting to disappear. And I did find it interesting how a young man in your case stuck with and continues to, I guess you'll let me know, do Kung Fu when the reality is I don't think that's very common anymore.
Yeah.
Can you tell me where that came from? Like your love, and I appreciate all martial arts. I come from a traditional background, so I like the loyalty to an art, whether it's any. I like that loyalty. And where did that come from? Where did the love for Kung Fu come from? And I assume it's all part of the process as well that you're doing. But
yeah, man, I think
why Kung Fu, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's so much less about the style of martial art, so much more about the community that I've just fell in love with.
Awesome.
Right. When I first started, I was 5 years old.
Okay.
I remember walking into that gym and like I was so scared. Like I just remember seeing everybody just seemed so confident. Everybody, there is like this like chaos that you walk into. And like my first class, like I didn't even join in. I was like grabbing my mom's leg, clutching on for dear life. And it's like a few different classes went by, same thing. And then eventually my instructor just came over and he was like, hey man, like you don't have to be scared. Like I know it's understandable that you're afraid, but just you got to get up and try it to know if it's going to actually be scary or not.
Right.
And so yeah, I got up there and I tried it, and I just remember very early on seeing that and being like, I want to be that person for somebody. And yeah, it's just that community of support of people who just, they push you, they knock you down, but they're also the first people to pick you back up. Just something about that just resonated with me so deeply. And yeah, you just kind of fall in love with those people. Like we said before, that becomes your family.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I think it's less about the style. Like I love trying different styles of martial arts. I've done jujitsu and stuff, and like I love going in and being that white belt again.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like this, it's almost like this is the thing that built me to who I am today. And not that I feel like I owe it to the style or anything like that, but it's like, it's who I am now.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Nice.
I don't know if that answers the question very well, but
yeah, no, I get it. And some people are lucky enough that they can find almost like their first love. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like that's phenomenal. And that's in Calgary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And who's your instructor? Shout him out, man.
So Grandmaster Jess Kung.
Yeah. You got her, man. Nice.
Yeah.
And what's he doing now?
He's retired now.
Yeah.
So
Good for him.
yeah. So when he actually decided so it was always a part-time thing for him as well, just running the martial arts club. He had a full-time job outside of it. And I think when I was like in my early 20s, he came to me and said, "Hey, Kyle, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like I'm kind of done with it now." But he said, "I would like you to take over the club and just make it your own thing and just run it from here if you want to. Otherwise, I'm just going to shut the doors."
It's done. Sure.
And I was like, yeah, this has always been my dream since I was really young. So 100%, I'm up for it.
Nice.
And so I've just kind of taken it and ran with it ever since.
Nice. And
but
still
yeah.
teaching the same style, same sort of
Same style.
way, curriculum-ish?
Yeah. So I've kind of, when I first started it, I called it a cutting edge Kung Fu.
Okay.
And the purpose behind that was I want to do things like a little bit different. I want to be a little bit more cutting edge with the way that I approach things.
Sure.
Kind of taking that traditional Kung Fu style and transferring it into this competition world.
A little more 2024.
A little more 2024
Yep.
so that, we can go and we can do these national competitions, do these world competitions and be competitive and be able to do it. But like you said, it is really difficult because, there's Portugal Worlds coming up, WKC. I've got some students that are going to that.
Nice.
But it's tough because they don't know. They might get there and there might only be 3 people in their soft style division.
Right.
And like to fork out that kind of cash to go and compete and not know, like it is tough to be a soft style at those tournaments.
Yes.
Because it's not as popular. It's, some of these karate divisions have 20 competitors.
Okay.
And then the soft style one might have 3.
Why do you think that's happening?
I don't know, to be honest. I think, I don't know. I think it's got to be something with just the culture of the traditional Kung Fu, maybe, and a resistance to do kind of what I've done is kind of blend that to that, like step away from the tradition a bit.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of holding on to tradition, which has its place
for sure,
100%,
for sure.
And I think that's why I think a lot of those tournaments are geared towards traditional karate.
Yes.
So it's tough for some of the soft styles and clubs to want to go out there.
Yeah, I mean, even me as a judge, for if you're a competent black belt, you were often a judge, and I mean, I had enough martial arts experience. I know generally what I'm looking at, but ultimately for the fine details, I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I agree that the soft styles often sometimes got the shaft at open tournaments. I don't know if that's true. You guys took home a lot of gold.
Well, I mean, I think it's what you make it, right? Like I've felt that before, but I've also felt the other side too, where I've also seen the other side where I'm judging, and maybe like I'm the only soft style judge, and maybe there's a student who's soft style who's doing a weapon that is not familiar to a karate or taekwondo style, like a chain whip or something.
Right.
And like I've trained that weapon, so I know the difficulty level of that weapon. I know it looks flashy,
Sure.
but I also know like, okay, that move is not that difficult to do. And so then I catch myself in a place where I'm giving a much lower score than all these other people. So now I'm looking like a little bit off. They're like, what is this? Does this guy know what he's doing? And the reality is I just like wasn't impressed because
No, you know what happens? The rest of us hardstyle guys are like, oh shit, we don't know what we're looking at.
like, I've never done that. That must be hard.
Yeah. 7.99. It's just like 7. You'd be like 7.3. You're like, oh, we freaked up.
Yeah.
Like,
But
obviously it wasn't as good.
That's why I think it's so important. That's why I do push my students, go to these competitions.
Yeah.
Even if you only have, I told my students who are going to Worlds, even if you only have 3 people in your division, be there and soak up, like watch these other styles.
Right.
There's so much that we can take. You know, there's a lot that karate and taekwondo can take from the kung fu style,
Right.
and incorporate and kind of blend into their style a little bit to make it a little bit different, to make it unique. The same way that we watch karate and taekwondo forms and we're like, man, that showmanship, man, that snap, that precision, we can take that and learn from that as well.
Nice.
And so I think that's why it's just so important to still just keep going and keep doing that.
Sure. And which then would separate the difference between like I understand maybe that's not a traditional kung fu, but now you're breaking a path between here's our traditional martial arts, this is competition. These are 2 separate roads.
Yeah.
Right? So they don't have to be, it's just how it's got to be, you know, modern times, right?
Totally.
Do you think a lot of it is also, and again, I'm just curious, you're like the first kung fu conversation I've had, man, so I'm going to take advantage of this.
Yeah.
Eastern thinking with clashing with Western thinking. You know what I mean? Like we always want to push boundaries and evolve. You know what I mean? Better, more, faster. And do you think that's part of it as well? Like you said, holding on to traditional, you know, we're so bad at that in North America. We always want prizes. We always want the next, you know, today, right now. Do you think that that's part of an issue with it as well?
Yeah, it's an interesting take, and probably I think so.
Yeah.
Like I think I am that way for sure. Like I definitely have that Western quality in me of like,
oh yeah,
I want to keep up. I want to I want to win. I want to go and be competitive. Like
that's the Western thinking.
Yeah.
I'm here to win.
Like I'm ultra competitive. I always have been. Like I want to win, and so I'm going to go and test myself and challenge myself, and then I'm going to adapt. I'm going to watch and see, why did that karate form beat my form when that was the best I could have done? And so then I'm going to study it, and I'm going to say, oh, they like it. They clearly like it when it's powerful, right? They didn't like that flowiness that I had. So how do I incorporate more of that power into it? So I think it does. It comes from that drive to just be competitive and to want to win and prove yourself, right?
Yeah.
And also, I never want myself to be in a box.
Yeah, I hear you.
Right? Like I don't want to be in a box. I don't want to. It's like Bruce Lee, right? Bruce Lee was like that.
Yeah.
It's like he created his own style. It wasn't like this is this one martial art. It's like no, I'm just gonna be the best that I can be. And I think that's where that comes from for me is just, yes, that Western mindset, but it's just competitiveness. I'm going to win at all costs. Like,
but yet, in my opinion, the things with like kung fu and the naturopath are very much the opposite of that. Maybe I'm wrong, but very much like when I think of like competitive, I'm here to win. I think of, you know, not somebody who doesn't want to take an Advil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Obviously, a little bit of balance there. Hey. How did the Wellness Dojo come about? And I don't mean like the business itself. I mean like I talk about fights on this podcast, and even then I'm always second guessing what I'm talking about. Where did the competence, the confidence, the life skills, where did that come from that I don't know how to ask this without sounding rude.
No, just say it.
It's just because me not good at the English. Where do you get the confidence to guide people through life?
Man, I was literally just having a conversation with somebody about this morning, and everything that I do, like when you're pushing yourself to grow, when you're in that growth mindset, I think you're going to face this imposter syndrome often, right? Even starting a podcast for the first time, which we were kind of talking about off air, it's like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, who am I to start a podcast? Like, I remember having that even after I'd been running my business for like 10, 13 years already and deciding I'm going to start a podcast. And
Right.
I remember thinking, like, how am I going to hold a conversation for an hour with somebody?
Right.
Who's going to listen to me? Like, how am I going to be interesting enough?
Yeah.
Like, major imposter syndrome. And then speaking with guests who are like so well spoken, and I'm so untrained.
Right.
And
Dude, yeah, this is me.
right? But you kind of learn to just be your authentic self. And when you start to be that more authentic version of yourself, you start to realize that you navigate the people in your life better, and you attract the people who are accepting of that. And I think that does bring more success. And so it's not necessarily that I've ever felt super confident in a way of like, I can save people, or I can like change people's lives and help people and guide people in that way. I just always think back to a good example. So the whole concept of the Wellness Dojo, when I started it, it came from, I was working at a gym, I was doing personal training, and I was getting really frustrated because I had clients who had big goals. I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to lose 100 pounds. And we'd start to make progress, and we'd be getting close. Sometimes we would get there, but then they'd always fall back. Like it's like we could never make it stick. We could never get there. And I really had to reflect on that, because I was that coach that was like, your results are my results. And if you're not successful, I'm not successful, which is a really dangerous mindset to have.
Okay. Why?
Because I had to realize that I can only do so much for people. I can't want it for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like any student in martial arts as well. Like, I can want you to be a champion till my dying days.
Yeah.
But unless you want to be a champion, I'm never going to succeed.
That's it.
And for that to be a reflection on me, that's a difficult place. It's a tough kind of like spiral that you can wind up down.
Sure.
So I was reflecting on this. I was like, okay, why are these people struggling to achieve these goals? And so I thought back to my own goal. I started martial arts when I was 5, and in our club, like, it was really tough. Like, we traditionally don't even have belts. My instructor brought belts into the Kung Fu system strictly for competition. Okay. And so like, even he never actually tested for like a black belt. He just started training, went into competition. They didn't have a belt system. So his instructor was like, well, just compete with the black belts. So he did. So he was a black belt.
There you go.
Right. And then he brought in this belt system, kind of adapted it from like the more like Japanese and Korean style martial arts, so that we could go and compete with them.
Right.
So started martial arts when I was 5. I got my black belt when I was 18. So this is a long journey to a black belt.
Sure, man.
So when I reflected on that, I was like, okay, how did I stick it out? How did I get there? And so I took those principles that I learned through martial arts. I was like, hey, how do I start to teach these principles so that other people can be successful with other goals? Even if it's not a black belt, the principles still apply. And that's when I started to form this idea of like the Wellness Dojo. It's like the principles of martial arts can be applied through other areas of life and be very effective for people to achieve their goals and to like create purpose in their life.
I don't know if it's like a written in stone kind of thing, but can you bust out a couple examples or some principles that you're speaking of?
Yeah, man. So I've kind of developed these principles that I call kicks.
Okay.
So first one is kindness. There's integrity, compassion, knowledge, and strength.
Okay.
So, and within those things, you know, with kindness, it's like empathy is a big part of that. Like, can you be empathetic, not just to other people, but with yourself? Right.
And I think that that is massively depleted on both sides, to others and yourself, in North American lifestyle.
Totally.
Yeah. Empathy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that we have a lot of work to do on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So with empathy, like, that's something, as I reflected on, like, okay, you know, what made me successful? That it was that community that provided that empathy. It maybe didn't seem obvious at the time, but it was like, it was those people who were, you know, they understood. You join a community, you join a martial arts class, you join a dojo, a gym, any kind of training like that. Like, those people understand what you're going through every time you're going through it.
That's it. Yeah. Everyone has had their day one on those mats.
Yeah. Everyone's had their day one. Everyone's had their worst day. Yeah. Everyone's had that competition where you show up and you just like, it wasn't your day.
Yeah. Or it was, and you lose in 10 seconds. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like, we understand each other, and when that level of empathy is super important, I think, In whether if you're trying to lose weight, that's why groups are so important to people. That's why it's so beneficial. That's why going to a fitness class, people resonate with that.
Right.
There's a level of empathy and understanding there, right? Yeah. And then, so integrity is another one. I mean, that one's pretty obvious, but it's like you have to learn to develop integrity in yourself, right? You can have integrity with your students and with your classmates and stuff like that, but also developing that integrity with yourself is so important. Anytime you have to, have that integrity of showing up every single day, even.
Right.
Like there's discipline that comes along with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's super important. And then compassion, again, kind of goes along with empathy, but it's just that self-compassion, which we talked about.
Yep.
Right. Can you give yourself grace on those days that aren't the best? When you don't achieve the goal that you set out in that timeline, can you be compassionate with yourself?
Yep.
That's super important. In knowledge, that obviously with martial arts and anything that you're doing, there's a level of knowledge that you have to not just learn. And I'm a big, I'm very different in the wellness world where I don't care about the diets.
Yeah.
I don't care about the new trends. People are always like, did you hear about this new diet? Like, tell me about this. I'm like, I didn't read about it.
Okay.
Because I'm more concerned about like the real life things. Like, for example, like I'll look at a ketogenic diet, for example.
Yeah.
And somebody will come to me and they'll be like, I'm going to try keto. Like, what do you think? I'm like, well, can you eat one serving of vegetables every single day for the next 6 months? Can you do that consistently? Right. It's like, because if you can't do that consistently, like, why are you going to push yourself to do this like major thing? Yeah. I always say, don't do something for 6 weeks you can't do for 6 years. Right. What's the point? You're going to end up starting over again. You're going to be frustrated. Yes. That's not building integrity. Right. And it's hard to have compassion with yourself with that. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. 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 So with knowledge, I look at it in that way as like real knowledge, and then knowledge in learning the lessons along the way. Every time you have a failure or a struggle or anything like that, are you learning? Right. Are you open and willing to learn that growth mindset? Right. Yeah. Is super important. And then that last one with strength, that's like the discipline. That's the also part of the learning as well. But that's just showing up, getting stronger, like working on yourself. Yeah. Yeah. And all those. Yeah. Yeah. There you go, man. Damn. There you go. Free one for you guys. Yeah. Drop this guy that's right. E-transfer.
So is it a program? You have people on, or is it? So how does that work?
Yeah. So it is. So the main thing that I'm doing right now through the business is teaching martial arts. Okay. So it's instilling those principles through martial arts, but also I have like workshops, like corporate workshops that I'm doing that help bring those to different areas as well.
So how do you do a like the principles are the same? I remember you were saying that, but how do you go to a corporate workshop and assume that those are not martial artists or have never been one? Like how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I don't go in anywhere assuming any level of experience or knowledge. That's kind of like that imposter syndrome that we were talking about. Yeah. Like I try and just go in and authentically know that I have a message that will resonate with some of you. Sure. And those who are ready and willing to hear it. Yeah. I think it'll be impactful. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And just keep it simple, I guess, eh?
Yeah, I do. I keep it simple, and I try to just have faith in and confidence in what I have to give. I think we all have something to give. Nice. Right. Yeah. And yeah.
Right on, man. That's cool. Where did the name come from? Wellness Dojo. How did that come about?
Yeah. So I just looked at a dojo and like, what is a dojo? And to me, a dojo is a place where you go to learn, you go to grow, and you always walk out a little bit better than when you walked in. And so when I think of wellness and what my kind of purpose is through everything that I'm doing, I want to empower people, right? I had a stage in my career when I was doing a lot of personal training, and I had clients that were working with me for like 5-10 years doing personal training. And I got to this point where working with a coach of my own, we were talking about purpose and like, what is your purpose? And I was trying to redefine like kind of rediscover that purpose, because I wasn't enjoying it anymore.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking forward to going and training my clients, and it just didn't feel good.
Right.
And there was a lot of other things happening in my life that were probably contributing to that, but things just weren't aligned. And when I looked at like, what is my actual purpose? It was to empower people. It was to give people the tools like I was given in martial arts to go and be better and independent and confident. And I remember having a conversation with one of my personal training clients, and I was like, if I died tomorrow, like, would you be good with your fitness and stuff? And they couldn't answer it.
Sure.
And I was like, man, I have created this dependency, which is the complete opposite of the purpose that I'm trying to give people. And so when I looked at
which
that,
kind of seems backwards, like when you think about it, right? Like,
yeah,
you almost want that dependency, you know, like not wanted, but it feels like that's right.
Yeah,
you know,
100%. And I realized that the dependency that I created for them, I had also created in myself, because it was like I almost didn't have to grow anymore, because I knew this person or these clients would do anything that I said. I knew I had their full trust.
Right.
I knew they were going to re-sign up.
Right.
So it was like, now I also had put myself in a place of like dependency on them.
Sure.
So it was like, I have to keep this client happy. I have to keep doing what I'm doing. And I wasn't growing anymore. So when I discovered that purpose, I was like, oh, like it was like emotional. Like I remember actually like having tears in my eyes when I realized, I'm like, man, I'm doing a disservice to them and to myself through this means of services. And it just didn't align anymore. And so that's where the dojo came in. When I thought about what is a dojo, it's a place where people leave better. I was like, okay, that's what I need to be doing. With everything that I'm doing, the dojo kind of encompasses that purpose of empowerment. And so that's where the Wellness Dojo came from.
Two things. Number one, was that a realization moment? Like, was it like a slap in the face? Like, holy cow. Like when you're saying you got emotional, like, was it like an immediate realization?
It was. I remember.
Funny how that happened.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember getting off that coaching call, because it was like a virtual coaching call. I remember just like sitting back and taking a deep breath, and yeah, just like tears in my eyes. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like,
Sure.
And yeah, it definitely took me back, but it was powerful in a positive way. Like it was almost like positive tears of like this realization, like, wow,
sure,
this is it. Like,
right. Holy, I found it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then very difficult to make that change.
Right. And I bet the energy boost from that realization was outrageous. You know, like
it was.
Yeah, I bet. Hey.
Yeah. And also terrifying.
I suppose.
Now
hey?
I'm like, now I need to change everything.
Right. Yeah. There's a line in the sand. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
The other thing I was gonna say, you know, which is I like about this conversation. So we talked about why we feel maybe some traditional martial arts are becoming non-existent, but here's why they need to stay around. For everything that we've talked about today, you've talked about, and I think of this coming from traditional martial arts, the things what a dojo is supposed to do for you in the community and the people that are in it. And I definitely feel like, I'll call out combat sports. I don't know about boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, you know, MMA. That's missing. All that is missing. That's a place where I go, where I prove who I am, and I hopefully don't get my ego hurt, and then I leave. And if everything's safe, I'm gonna do it again tomorrow. I'm gonna let everybody know who's the man, you know, and that's fine. But I like how you explain a dojo and martial arts better, and I came from that background, and I think that's what North American martial arts is missing, is the traditional values that still need to be there. Yes, it's a new year, and we have to teach differently, and our dojos aren't disgusting places anymore. They're nice businesses, but those are the traditions that we need to hang on to. Because those are for life. Those are life lessons. Those aren't things you just come and do a couple times a week. That's for life. That's what it's supposed to be for.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty refreshing, man.
Yeah.
I like that point of view. And I think that gets. I think I get too wrapped up in fighting and fights and stuff. So I appreciate this, man. This is awesome. Now competition yourself. So now like I said, I'm 100 years old, and with this, I'm gonna be real. I fight, I toy with this, but with this knee injury, you have kids, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm now from injury to hopefully the last check mark is going to be 18 months. So my son just turned 7. So that means I haven't been going to the park. I have not been going tobogganing. I have not been chasing my son around. Is it worth it? I'm going to be real. I don't know if I'm going to go back to sparring even. And every time I think I should, man, you know, I got down to like 158 pounds, which I used to fight at like 154. And I was like, maybe I should think about fighting again. Anyway, I always come back to no way, man. I'm done. But now I'm almost 10 years ahead of you. But after having some injuries and some concussions, I know you have the itch, but how serious is that itch, I guess?
Yeah. So if you indulge me in another story, I'll tell you kind of my thought process.
Let it rip, pal.
This. So the tournament that I got...
Real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if I'm the one who's talking and we start asking, like, what's your favorite topping on pizza? Dude, we screwed up. So if you have a story, that's why we're here, man.
Perfect. I appreciate it. No, so the tournament that I got really badly concussed at. So leading into that tournament, I was not in shape.
Okay.
Like I was...
Super common, by the way, in point fighting. I guess I'll fight today. You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah.
Common.
Yeah, super common. And so this is the mindset going into it. So I'm not in shape. My grandpa had just passed away like 2 weeks prior. So I'm like emotionally, I'm a wreck, right? Just, I'm not there.
Yep.
I'm not there mentally. But this old version of Kyle going into this tournament thinking, I've got parents who are looking up to me. I've got students who are looking up to me. Who am I to tell these people that they should be out there competing if I'm not stepping up and showing?
I hear you.
I remember my first tournament, not to backtrack too much, but I remember my first tournament when I took over the club and the pressure that I felt at that tournament to go and like to win.
Right.
Because I thought everybody needs to see me win. Otherwise they're not going to want to be my student anymore.
And you're the only one thinking that.
And I'm the only one thinking that. Like that feeling was still with me going into this tournament.
Okay.
And so I go and I do my form first. I fall on my ass doing my form. Horrible.
I've never seen you do that once, by the way.
Horrible. Like I'm pretty sure I went to do like like the kick up.
Yes.
So like kicking up off my back onto my feet, fall on my ass. I'm like, okay, just lost.
Right.
So that should have been my first sign. Maybe I don't fight today.
Right.
But no, I'm like, okay, shake it off. I'm gonna get it back.
That's right.
With fighting.
I win.
I go in, man, I got my ass kicked so bad. Even before I fell and got the concussion, I was getting just destroyed. Like my head was just not there.
Do you know who you were fighting, by the way?
I was fighting Hector.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Don't get me wrong.
Hector Ortiz.
Bad dude. Bad man.
Yeah. And Hector is like, shout out to Hector. He's such a great competitor. Like he's such a talented martial artist. And him and I have gone toe to toe so many times.
Sure.
Right.
And you talk about body language, man. You can tell that's a guy who's there to win too, man.
That's a guy that's there to win.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like my body language when I go back and I look at like videos from that day, like my body language, there's no wonder he kicked my ass because he would have been looking over at me probably thinking like just licking his chops.
Sure.
Right? This guy is not here to win today.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. So then I get hurt and I have to reflect on it afterwards. And so like I go to therapy. So I'm in therapy and I'm like, why? Like, I don't understand why I felt like I had to fight that day. And I really started to change my mindset from that event on if I'm going to compete, I have to do it for the right reasons.
Yes.
Right. And so now when you ask me about that itch that I feel, how big is that itch? Like, how much do I really want it? You know, it's something for me where when I go in now, I still want to win. Like there's a reason I haven't gotten back in yet. And it's because I haven't felt yet like I can go and compete.
Sure.
Like if I don't feel like I can go and get that fight back,
right,
like then I'm not going to go in there.
Right. Nobody wakes up on fight day like, man, I hope I get 5th place today. You know, everybody first.
Yeah.
Right.
First place. That's it. Like if you're not first, you're last kind of thing.
That's right.
Right?
Ricky Bobby.
Yeah. Ricky Bobby. But the reason I have that itch now is because I just miss it.
Sure.
Like I want the enjoyment of it. And I think going in with that mindset, I can go in safer as well.
Okay.
Where I know my limits now. When if I tweak something in class, like I back off now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know like, okay, I might need to take like a week here and
right,
just like let this recuperate.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just going in smarter.
Sure.
now.
Sure.
And
That's got to come with age too, man.
And for the right reasons.
Sure.
Right. There's got to be the right purpose behind it. It's not just about winning for me anymore. It's not about proving to my students or even, proving to anybody else watching. It's more just about proving to myself that like I can still get in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I just want to. Like,
and I just
doesn't even have to be beyond that. I just want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man. That's good. Good for you.
Yeah.
And how about yourself? Do you have a lot of competitors underneath you? Like you said, you had some going to the World Championships?
Yeah, I got a couple students. I got 3 students that are going to Worlds in just a week now, I think, end of October here. So that's great. And then, I've got a good group right now of competitive students within my club that are,
nice.
Not necessarily like diehard competitors or anything like that, but they like to get out to the competition and it's personal growth.
Yeah.
And so I encourage it any time, but I don't push it anymore either.
Okay.
Like I'm not like, you have to go and compete.
Yeah.
Do you want to compete? Yeah. Okay, let's get you ready. Let's go test ourselves.
So how do you with your speaking skills, how do you convince your students to compete? How do you get them to go from non-competitors to competitors? What do you tell them?
That's a great question. I'm constantly trying to navigate that, but really I've kind of stopped trying to convince them. I spent a lot of time trying to convince students to compete. And through my own lesson, like I just described, I realized you have to do it for the right reasons. And I really had to adjust as a coach. Maybe you felt this too, but when I first started coaching, I was like, everybody needs to win. Everybody needs to be like, everybody has that same drive that I have to be a winner. And I had to learn that not everybody has that drive.
Right.
Not everybody's in martial arts to go and compete and win. Some people just actually are there for fun. Some people just are like coming because they've made friends there now.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
So I try and approach it in more of a personalized way where it's like, I know the students that do want to be competitive and do want to win. And so I focus that competitive energy on them.
Okay.
And then when the other students see that and want to engage in that, then I'm there for them too.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great, man. That's a good way to handle it. I admit I don't push my kids into competition. I try to guilt them into it.
Yeah. Okay, tell me about this.
I tell them, like, whether you've done 100 tournaments, 500 tournaments, the nerves of, and first I just try to tell them, like, how many people are coming to a tournament, and there'll be, let's say there's a class of 15, there's 3 that put their hand up, and I'll go, and I sort of put them on the spot, and I let them say whatever they want. How come you aren't coming? Oh, I have a birthday party. How come you're not coming? Oh, I'm busy. I'm like, okay. And I'll tell people, if you're willing to put up your hand, that's okay. But let me give you some reasons. I'm scared to lose. I might get embarrassed. I might get hurt. They're going to embarrass me in front of everybody. Everyone's going to be watching me. Are any of those reasons for anybody? And maybe 1 or 2 will put their hand up. And I'll say, listen, you guys don't have to tell me, but those reasons don't go away. And the more you compete, the more all those things are going to come true. And I'm sorry to tell you that. but I try to tell them, for me, what it is when I see you at a tournament, I hope you get first, you might get last, but more importantly, I see you there. And so what I see that you're doing is you're working through those fears and the adrenaline. I see it in your face, man. You want to be anywhere else. And yet you keep putting one foot in front of the other and you go and do it. And I try to tell them, like, that's for life. A job, somebody being mean to you, a test at school, like, just learning to confront those fears a little bit, for me, is the win. If you get first, hey, I'm proud of you. If you get last, fine. It's fine. I saw you there, and I saw you dealing with something much bigger than a trophy. So I try to guilt trip them that way. And sometimes it works. But yeah, ultimately, well, I'm sure you're the same. You see some of your students who are like, they probably will compete in our little tournaments. You have some that maybe you want to venture out. Then you have some that are like, no, I want to be a monster in martial arts, right? Like, I'm sure you have all 3, but where do you find yourself right now in there? Like, well, I'll speak for myself. I like fighters. I like fighting. I love fighting. It's my favorite, but I've lost that. I don't even want to fight anymore, man. You know what I mean? Like, I used to be super hardcore. We fight, we push everybody, we go fight. And if you can't fight, that's fine. Just go train over there with those guys. And I've lost a lot of that being a parent having a gym, that being really injured, and maybe just coming to the conclusion that it's over for me in that sense as well. That's how I feel. I'm just kind of curious, where do you fit? Do you still see yourself? I know you said you soften on the teaching, or at least on the competitiveness side, but when you're teaching those kids who are competitive, does I want to win Kyle come out, or are you still nice and gentle?
No, it definitely comes out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm super passionate about the mindset piece behind competition.
Yeah.
And it's like what you said. Like, I do tell my students as well, like, you're going to learn so much more going to a competition than you're going to learn in class with me.
And it has nothing to do with the punch or the kick.
It has nothing to do with that. It's all about that personal growth of, you have to learn to trust yourself. That's part of that integrity piece that I was talking about before too, right? When you go to a competition, you step in, you're standing on the edge of the mat, whether it's forms, kata, or sparring. You're standing on the edge of the ring waiting for your turn to go up. It's you against you every time, right? Yeah, you might get up against a more talented fighter, a less talented fighter, might be your day today. But no matter what, it's you versus you. You have to perform your best, and it's a mental battle the entire time. That practice is just invaluable, right?
That's just it.
And so, I think of that when I have those students who are eager for competition, because it excites me. That lights me up. Like that, like
you get to go back in that mindset.
It's like, yes, somebody gets it. Because I think that's what it is. I think that's when people have that itch, when they kind of catch that bug, that competition bug. I think it's because they have discovered that feeling of, maybe they lost, or maybe they're struggling to win. I've got a fighter right now they're right on the brink of that, like that fighter mentality, that kind of killer instinct.
Right.
And they're just about to break through it. And you can see it, but because they've experienced that struggle to get there, like they recognize the growth that's in front of them.
Right.
Man, that that lights me up. Whether I'm competing or not, when my students have that bug, it's like, this is it, man.
No, you're right. I can get drawn into it pretty easy when someone's passionate. Like, okay, let's go. You're right. You're right. You're right. Just the way you said that, like, oh yeah, I'm stoked. Let's go. Compete. Let's go. If anything, like, and I spar the same way, and that's maybe why I have to stay away from sparring too. Is, man, to be honest, I just said I lost all that. I might be talking a huge bunch of shit. I admit here's why I probably need to stop sparring. I don't, like we said, I'm always unprepared. I barely train. I don't train with the fighters, but yet sometimes when I spar them, it's just the nod of the head, like, let's go. And I'm like, yep, let's go. Like, and off I go. Then I get hurt because I'm ill prepared for it. So I can get really drawn into that really easy, and I don't need the injuries. So
it's like muscle memory, man. Like, you get up, like, I do it too with some of my students who are really talented, and I'm like, maybe it's not my best day, or I just know my body's not feeling it today, but then they get going and you're like, okay, let's see what we got today.
And it's not that I'm angry. It's like, I enjoy ruffling feathers, and I want mine ruffled too. You know? It's fun. You get to find out a little bit of what I'm made of today.
It is like, sometimes when you do get your ass kicked, even in class, especially from a student, like, that's a good wake up call for you. Like, okay, maybe I do need to get back in the gym a little bit. I got out of breath a little bit too easy today.
And then at the same time, it's like, okay, let's go find a fight. Let's go. If you're beating my ass, it's time. It's time.
It's time for you to step up.
Although as I grow older, that sentence, it's going to be easier to beat me up. But that's okay.
You said you have one child?
Yeah, one son. Yeah.
And is he doing martial arts?
No, man, no. So, which is a funny topic because I can't build anything. I can't fix anything. It's just martial arts. So if you want to talk martial arts, I'm very useful, but that's about it. Man, he did karate for 8 months. 8 months. Now, I know he started when he was 4, but 8 months. He was sparring. This is when I know, I'm like, man, we got to take a break. Charlie punch, and this is what I get out of my kid. Just twisting his fist. I'm like, oh, dude, it's been 8 months. You've been coming here. And I haven't even been teaching him. Like, I'm just trying to step back. But, my honest thought on that is I never want to push my child into martial arts. I don't want him to hate it. However, the one thing and I said this in the last podcast, the one thing I can offer you is the ability to look after yourself. Eventually, you don't have a choice. Like, that's, and I'm sure you know as well, like, there's some kind of peace of mind that I'm not saying I can beat everybody up. I'm not saying I can beat anybody up, but at least I just feel like I might be able to look after myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of peace of mind that comes through that. And again, it's from getting my ass kicked in here. I've been beat up on these exact mats way more than I ever expected to get beat up out there.
Yeah.
And, as we've just been talking about for the last 45 minutes, all the lessons involved in that's the one thing I can offer my son. And so eventually he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping is he gets bullied good and hard one time and then, Dad, I need help. Finally.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you? Are your kids quite young? Are they in part of the martial arts journey yet?
Yeah, so all three of my kids are in it.
Damn
it.
Come on, Cub.
I know. But it's tough. Like, it's tough to be dad and coach. It's tough to wear both hats.
Especially when they don't realize the hat that's on, right? Probably.
Yeah, and I've had conversations. Like, I check in with them on a regular basis. Like, are you still enjoying this?
Yeah.
Do you still want to do this? Don't do this for me. Like, only do it if you want to do it. I'm very, very open with them about that. But yeah, it's both such a beautiful thing and also such a challenge.
Sure.
Too.
Yeah, I bet.
I have to remind myself always that I'm dad first, even when I'm in the dojo. Like, I'm always dad. I have to be dad first.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a challenge because my kids don't always want to listen to me in class.
Right.
So then I learn, right? I learn as a coach, like, hey, get this other instructor can come and like watch my kids because they'll benefit more from that.
Right.
But yeah, it's a tough balancing act for sure.
Yeah, I bet. If there's anything I did notice is me trying to sit on the sidelines, having somebody else teach my son was my expectations. Well, I'm probably like every other parent sitting down there. Were way too high for my kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just not listening for 3 seconds and you're vibrating.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Totally. I'm the exact same.
But at the same time, we all know if you're the teacher, they need to go through that. They need to not tell you to pay attention. They need somebody else, or they need to forget the drill, or they need to go run over there. Like, let them. It's all part of it. You know what I mean? Easier said than done until I'm the guy on the sidelines. And then I'm exactly the parent that you didn't want, that annoys you.
Yeah. I know. There's nights where my kids have definitely had enough of Coach Dad.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, man. Like, just show me like your best. I know you're so much better than this. I have to tell myself like, just step back, just let them do their thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kids, turn you old quick.
Yeah.
Why would I? I'm just gonna pick a random age. Let's say I'm 20. No, I don't know. I'm a man. Why would I contact the Wellness Dojo? How would I come across it, and why would I contact you?
Yeah, so I think you'd come across it probably mostly through social media.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is the biggest thing. And honestly, I think the reason why somebody would come in and join the Wellness Dojo would be community. That's my number one focus.
Nice.
I don't care if I build a champion. I don't care if I build a killer, like somebody who can defend themselves super great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that's a part of it, but that's not it.
Right. Yeah.
It's about,
that's great.
do you want a community to join? You want a good supportive group of people? Are you looking for that second family?
We might be it.
Yeah, we might be it.
Nice.
Right? I'm an advocate for any gym. Like, any community that gives you that, just go and find it. Like, go and try it.
Right.
I love seeing adults come in and try martial arts for the first time. Whether it's boxing, Muay Thai, Kung Fu, karate, jiu-jitsu, go and try it.
Yeah.
Like, indulge yourself in that community. It will be worth it.
And adults in martial arts, I say this a lot too, we have a grading system here. And I know even in Muay Thai, it's very unpopular. Of course, North American systems all have them because that's how North Americans are. We need treats. But the reality is, if there's anything I can say is adults don't have to set goals for themselves, right? I'm going to go to the gym today. I'm going to watch The Simpsons, eat a bag of chips, right? You can just fluff it off, but you make your kids do them, right? So adults never really have to set goals for themselves. They fluff them off. And so for me, even if it's getting a yellow belt or whatever, right? Like, you set the time aside, you had a goal, which we've been talking about this whole podcast, you know what I mean? And you made it there. And it's funny how you think it's stupid until you see them an adult put on a yellow belt just like a kid, but they get a little taller. You can see their chest is a little out. Like, and so I think that's, and I agree. So when I see adults walk in here, and it's like for the exact same, it doesn't happen as often as it should, in my opinion. But the fact that like you recognize that it's uncomfortable and you're taking that step forward when you didn't have to, you could have stayed home, you make your kids, we're going to karate, you're going to try soccer, you're going to go to camp, but A lot of adults don't do any of that shit. And I think that's massive. You know, I agree. I maybe try to keep when I have an adult come in to try a class, I really try to protect that careful egg a little more than maybe I would a kid. I'm not saying I don't with kids, but for that reason, that's a big step, you know?
There's a real beauty in risking looking foolish.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I tell them that too. Like, listen, it's okay. You just have to have fun. You don't have to remember anything. Forget the stance. I'll show you what, and if you need a drink, go take one whenever. And like we talked about earlier, the one thing that I always tell them, which seems to release their shoulders, is just so you know, yeah, you think you're going to feel dumb. Everyone's going to watch me. Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
You're the only one who thinks that. Nobody else cares.
Yeah.
You can tell it like, yeah, okay. Well, let's do it. Here we go. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
How would I know? And I'm sorry, I know we're getting to the end here, man. How would I know I'm looking for community? Like how do I come? Like maybe I'm still slightly confused, but like, would I be looking for the Wellness Dojo through like martial arts? How would I find it? Like you said, if you do anything, you go to the gym, Dungeons and Dragons, fixing cell phones, whatever. How would I know to call or to get a hold of the Wellness Dojo? And by the way, I'm trying to not, like, I'm not making this a difficult question. If anything, no. I'm trying to like encourage people, like if this is a step, how would I run into you? Like,
yeah. Like how people contact me, that kind of thing? Or?
And just how would I run into the Wellness Dojo? Would I do it through martial arts? Would I do it through counseling, through, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
how would I find you?
Martial arts is definitely our kind of that big open door.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so to speak. But I'm trying to do more things to get, like, to open that door further.
Sure.
Right? So I mentioned like going into corporate businesses and just touching on those different areas.
Yes.
I'd love to go into schools and talk to kids or do some martial arts with kids, those types of things. But yeah, martial arts is that big open gate for us, where that's a great place where people can see us and experience that community firsthand and just see really what we're all about first and foremost.
Right. And much like the Gloves Not Guns podcast that we both did.
Yeah.
There's something about punching and kicking and doing that with your friends to help build that community, maybe bring down some barriers, right? Like,
totally.
Like that's a tale as old as time, right?
Yeah.
What would you call yourself? Like a counselor?
No,
you know what I mean? I'm trying to find a title. Maybe that's what I'm trying to do here.
I know. I appreciate that. And I've been trying to find that for a long time. But no, the title that resonates most with me, like, I'm an empathetic coach. Like, that's how I kind of would title myself.
Yeah, okay.
I resonate with coach. I always have. I don't have any counseling degrees or anything like that.
Sure.
I've done some courses and stuff like that on like childhood development.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm really passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Just like learning how the brain develops and how, like, why kids are the way that they are, where ADHD comes from, all those different struggles and stuff like that. But
bro, does your brain ever shut off?
No,
never.
Okay. Yeah, no, never shuts off. It's constantly going. But yeah, I resonate with the title of coach for sure.
Yeah, that's great, man. Nice. And what would you say your age of clientele tends to be?
It's so vast. Like, we've got classes just similar to you guys. Like, we've got our Little Ninjas class that starts at 4 years old, and we've got adults that are in their 60s.
Nice. All the way up and down.
All the way up and down.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beauty.
Yes. Beauty. Open for anybody. I encourage all ages.
Well, and I'll tell you what, man. Like you've talked about, and I kind of try to think of myself the same through a coach or even through this podcast thing. Like, I know I talk silly about it, but I want people to see my errors and watch me trip through this. And the last 2 podcasts, for example, were unbelievably quiet. And I had it fixed today, but then your voice is loud enough, so I didn't have to fix it. So I try to lead through my mistakes. Like, look, and open about them. I made an error here. Let me find out what happened and watch me correct it. Mm-hmm. And I find it sounds like you're much in the same boat. And it just sounds like, for me, when I can do it that way, I can authentically help you, because you've watched. I tried, I failed, I fixed, I succeeded. And you've watched that whole process. So I try to guide people as a coach through my failures. and not just failures, but did I fix them? Did I correct them? If I didn't, I'll be open about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a nice, I don't know what you would say, but comforting feeling of knowing that you're being guided by somebody who's not full of shit, and you're watching them make mistakes, maybe not monumental mistakes, but watching them having to do exactly what they're saying, exactly what they're telling you to do. They got to do the same in real time. And I think for me as a coach, I don't think there's any other better way to offer coaching, in my opinion.
I agree 100%. You asked me earlier about where the confidence comes from to go out and do these things. It comes from that experience in martial arts of like, we struggle together.
Yeah.
Right. And even as a coach now, I will share with I told my students when I got hurt, like I should not have been in there.
Yeah.
I told them the story about how I was competing for the wrong reasons.
Yep. Yeah,
them understanding that and being able to share those experiences with them, you're 100% right. Though that resonates now. They realize, oh, Sifu Kyle, he's human.
Right.
Like
right.
he's not this like, I remember thinking my instructor was like perfect. He's like inhuman. Like he's supernatural. He's the pinnacle of what you need to achieve to be and stuff. And as you get older, we do the same thing with our parents growing up stuff. We think life is this perfect picture that it's been molded for us and like how everybody's wanted us to see it.
Right.
And you grow up and you learn like, no, everybody's got their shit. Everybody's struggling. Right.
Yeah.
We were talking about our podcasts and stuff. Like we started these podcasts and we're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of tripping my way along and figuring it out. And you're right. I think that allows you to be that authentic version of you and that you then attract the right people.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good call, man. Good call. Before we're out of here, just out of curiosity, can you tell me your top? First of all, you know what I did want to mention before that? Or maybe you can give me a couple in your mind. So I was listening to a few of your episodes. A lot of episodes that I caught, maybe I just caught them random this way, but it's a lot of like, well, very much we talked about struggle and overcoming that struggle. I was curious for your own podcast, so my listeners can listen. Can you give me a couple podcasts? Because you've done how many so far?
I've done 80 now.
Yeah, 80.
Yeah.
Is there any 2 or 3 that stick out in your mind? Like, holy cow, man, that was heavy. And you could suggest people to listen to?
Yeah. I mean, TJ's episode was just recently did like what the work that he's doing and his story
Amazing.
is, it's just so amazing.
Yeah.
That was a really good one. Even some of my earlier podcasts, when I think back to it, Jessica Jansen, I had her on. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she wrote a book and is all about her son who had this rare disease. He died very young as a baby. And she shares that story and how she kind of took that struggle that they went through of like having their kid in the hospital and like his only years of life having to spend it in the hospital with them and how they took that and created joy from it. That's an episode that sticks with me to this day. Like it's just so many. Like I've had so many episodes recently that it's like what we said, when we start to become more authentic and we start to just be more true to ourselves, I've just found myself bringing on some of the most inspiring people. So I don't know. It's not a good answer to your question.
No, it was that was 2. That was good. But I was curious. Do you seek these people out? How do you find your guests?
It's both. I seek people out. A big thing for me has been just networking.
Yeah.
It's something new that I'm doing. Like I've always been naturally introverted.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I've been trying to do more networking in the last year or so here and just meeting different people like that. And
nice.
Just showing up to places. I know I'm kind of saying this word a lot, but showing up more authentically me to different spaces. I find myself in conversation with powerful people with impactful stories. And
that's because authenticity is missing nowadays.
Totally.
And yet it like you were talking about corporate before, and like, I'm sorry, man. I know people that are in that industry for many years. Those are the most inauthentic people you're ever going to meet. And you can maybe being a martial artist, maybe because I'm out of that world, but I see it coming a mile away. But at the same time, when you are authentic, I see that coming a mile away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. On that note, I'll give you one more episode that I did recently with Tracy Borson.
Okay.
And we talked all about authenticity on that episode.
Nice.
And just a really fascinating conversation. She's the epitome of authentic. I've had the pleasure of interacting with her a few times, and every time she's just like a breath of fresh air in terms of authenticity, and she describes it really well. So if people are interested in figuring out how they can kind of learn to be that more authentic version of themselves, because it's not easy to get there, that's a great episode to.
I'm gonna check that out. Okay, good, good, man.
Yeah, appreciate that question, by the way.
Yeah, you bet, man. Last question, man. Who are your top 3 favorite martial artists of all time, and why?
All right, so top 3. So Jackie Chan is up there for sure.
Just turned 70, by the way.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah, man.
So Jackie Chan was like my man growing up. Like, I love the Jackie Chan movies. He made martial arts fun for me. Good call. Right. You know this, growing up in martial arts, especially in the olden days, like it was very much like this, like discipline. Like there is a different vibe to it, that very traditional style of martial arts like we're talking about.
Before you continue on, matter of fact, I just saw a post today creeping through your Instagram. You were talking about doing a long bow form, and you had to do it 100 times perfect. And if you screwed up within, you had to start all over again. Yeah, man. Right? That kind of thing, hey?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yep. Like not being able to lift your arms for a few days afterwards kind of thing. Jackie Chan, his movies and stuff just always inspired me. Yeah. And yeah, he brought that kind of fun side of it. He was funny. He had a nice personality that came along with it. And that kind of inspired me to allow myself to be a little bit more goofy with it. And, you know, I did a musical form. I was the first person in my club to ever do that. Okay. Right. And so it's like, but that comes from like watching those movies and being like, oh, you can have fun with this. Right.
And being willing to come out of the box. I'm really getting that out of you. You're willing to step out of the box. Yeah, for all the right reasons.
Yeah, and risk looking foolish.
Right.
So that's one. George St. Pierre, for sure. I mean, that guy, I met him once. I got to go to this fundraiser. I got to meet him, and he did like a talk, and like I was a big fan of his before that, but yeah, just meeting him, he's just like so humble and graceful. Yeah. And
He's the best ambassador for everything. Mixed martial arts, Canada, being a man, being an athlete, like he's the best representative of all that.
Coming from bullying and stuff like that. Like, and like he walked away at the right time. Yes. Right? Like he started to recognize that exactly what we've talked about in this episode. Yeah. He started to recognize my body can't do this anymore. I'm putting myself at risk. Why am I doing this?
Don't do it for the wrong reasons.
Don't do it for the wrong reasons, right? And so, yeah, I think he's one of the best ambassadors for martial arts for sure.
Good call. Yeah.
And then I mean, it's a boring answer, but Bruce Lee.
Come on now. It's not boring. It's not boring.
I mean, how can you not, right? The guy's a legend.
Yeah.
And just, he took martial arts and made it his own.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm sorry to burst your bubble on this. I'm just curious on Bruce Lee, but I did an episode with Gil of Fantasy a couple of years ago, maybe now. He was my old instructor. I'm butchering it now, but I brought it up that episode. Did you ever hear about all this like drug trafficking thing about Bruce Lee?
I did, and I actually did listen to that episid back then too when you did it. And I was fascinated by that.
I was going to butcher that hard if I had to rebring that up, but yeah, it's like learning something bad about your superhero. Like, no, but at the same time, pretty cool story.
I mean, and again, everybody has their shit.
That's right.
Right? It's like nowadays we just have more access to it.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that's also important because no matter how big these legends are, how much we look up to people, whether it's your martial arts instructor or a martial arts legend like Bruce Lee, there's something almost beautiful in recognizing that like we're all human.
That's right.
We've all made mistakes. None of us are perfect.
That's it, man. Yeah. Don't put everybody on that godly pedestal. No one's earned it.
Exactly.
Where can we find you, man, moving forward? Where is there a website, on Instagram, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I got a website, wellnessdojo.ca. I'm on all the different social media platforms. Search Wellness Dojo on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or just connect with me personally. I'm very active on my social medias. On Instagram, you can get me Wellness Ninja, YYC.
Nice.
Otherwise, just search Kyle Craik on Facebook, and happy to be connected, happy to be friends with everybody.
Beauty, man. Nice.
Just grow this community.
That's it. I hear you. Any last words before we're out of here?
I don't think so, man. Just thank you so much. This was fun. This is great to chop it up with you and connect again. And appreciate the platform.
Hey, yeah, man, always. And to be honest, I appreciate the martial arts talk, but beyond the punch and the kick, to be honest. And funny enough, as always, you're like, man, what the hell are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
And you just talk, and you're like, shit, I got to go.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, man. Well, thanks. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank
and
you.
Hopefully we can do it again in the future, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to have you on mine.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm not sure when, but I know my buddy Eric Thankachin from Silverback Martial Arts will be in the house right away. And he's going to the same place, WK. He's going to some world championship thing next week, too.
Yep,
so
nice.
Good luck to you guys.
Thank you.
Good luck, Eric, and your crew. And other than that, we'll see you soon. Peace.